Alright, you guys, welcome back. In our last video, we talked about time signature and its relation to how creation of music goes. Today, we're going to take a look at whole, half, and quarter rest. And we're going to be learning about all of these notes and putting them together with their opposites, which would be quarter notes and or quarter, whole, half, and quarter notes. And excuse me, whole, half, and quarter notes, and we'll learn about their opposites, the whole, half, and quarter rests. We'll also be putting it all together with everything that we have learned so far in Unit 2. In Unit 2, it consists of lessons, I'm assuming lessons 6 through 9. We're now on lesson 9, which is whole, half, and quarter rest. And we're going to be looking at this. We're going to introduce whole, half, and quarter rest, and then we're going to put it all together with time signature and everything else that we've learned this unit in order to kind of create music for ourselves. All right. So first things first, what is a rest? What does that mean? Well, music is not only made up of musical sounds, and the musical sounds are represented by notes, but it's also made up of the silence in between the sounds, okay? Music is not only made up of sounds, but also the silence in between the sounds. In music, silence is called a rest. Now, the same way we have a quarter note, and we learned that quarter notes, if you wanted to clap 4 or say 4 of them, you would say ta, 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 ta. Well, an easy way to understand a rest, if you were to see a quarter rest, you would look at it and you'd be like, okay, well, let me just say rest, 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 rest. Or you would be silent for amount of 4 beats like this. See? So, we have to introduce the first 3, and we're going to compare them to their opposites, okay? First things first, the whole rest. The whole rest gets 4 beats of silence, okay? The whole rest is also used to give an entire measure of silence. If you wanted to, you could just put a whole rest and the entire measure could be silent. That's kind of how it's used. However, there are certain instances in which you will never use a whole rest, okay? Now, the whole rest receives 4 beats of silence. The whole rest receives 4 beats of silence. The whole rest receives 4 beats, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 beats of silence. The half rest receives 2 beats of silence, which means if I were to use 4 beats, and I want 2 of them to be silent, it would sound like this. Ta, 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 2, T, 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 T. See what I mean? There's still 2 beats that are silent that I did not play. I might have kept snapping, but that was only to give time, and that's the metronome. That's not to say that the half rest does not. The half rest will never stop the metronome because the metronome keeps the beat in the background. And you will not always hear the metronome. So I'll give you a better example like this. Ta, 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 2, T, 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 T. Again, you see how I did the same thing again, but instead of having a metronome, you can't hear it. You can feel that there's 2 beats of, where there should be 2 other beats of sound, there's 2 beats of silence, okay? Half rest, 2 beats of silence, okay? The quarter rest, a little squiggly looking line over there, all right? The quarter rest is like the quarter note, but it's the opposite of the quarter note. The quarter note receives 1 beat of sound. The quarter rest receives 1 beat of silence, okay? So if you take a look down at the bottom and you can see my examples, I have that the quarter rest is equal, all quarter rests are equal to 1 beat, all half rests are equal to 2 beats, and whole rests are equal to 4 beats. If we take a moment and we take a look at this, and let's say in 4/4 time, and I give you 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, ta, ta. Or I could do it this way, just so you understand exactly what is happening here. It's easy to say rest. So you know to get it inside of your body and muscle memory that you see that there's a rest here. So you can say ta, rest, until you know to say ta, ta, okay? Same thing with the half rest, okay? You could go 2, rest, rest, 2, rest, rest, until you get to the point where you can go 2, 2. See what I mean? Same thing with whole rest. Now, You could use a whole note to show you first, which would be like 2, rest, 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 rest. 2, rest, 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 rest. I still gave you 4 beats of sound, and I also showed you the opposites when it came to 4 beats of silence. Now, let's do a little bit of mathematics here. Don't worry, we're gonna reinforce this. I know it's going away really quickly. Let's make this quite easy. Leave the main sentence up here, silence in music is called rest. Okay? Now, when we are talking about using time signature, I'm going to draw me a staff really quickly. Might be a little crooked. Let's say we do, I'll put it in treble clef. Make it quite easy for everyone. For time signature, and I'll extend it so that I have about 2 measures comfortably that you will be able to see. Draw the line right there. All right. So this is measure 1. This is measure 2. This line that I drew down the middle of the staff is my bar line. You should remember that. And at the end of this, I drew a double bar line to denote the ending of the music. Now, don't worry. When we're going into this, we're going to start to understand several things about this, okay? Remember, 4/4 time signature tells us that there are 4 beats in a measure. The top number tells us how many beats are there, and the bottom number tells us what type of notes gets the beat. Since it is a 4, the quarter note gets the beat, and since the 4 is at the top, well, the 4 is in the numerator for my mathematician people. The 4 that's in the numerator tells us that there are 4 beats in the measure. The 4 in the denominator tells us that the quarter note receives the beat. So if I wanted to, I could come here, place a note on line 1. I could place a quarter note on line 1, quarter rest, half note, right? Now let's count and make sure I have all my beats. How many beats does a quarter note receive? 1. That's beat 1. How many beats does a quarter rest receive? Well, it doesn't make a sound, so does it really get a beat? Yes, it does. I told you before. The quarter rest is the opposite of the quarter note. Just because it says it's a rest and it is silence in music does not mean that it doesn't still count as a note. It still counts as a note. It just receives 1 beat of silence. So this would be beat 2. How many beats does a half note receive? Well, it ain't the 8th note. The 8th note receives half a beat. So the half note got to receive 2 beats. Absolutely. So the half note receives beats 3 and beats 4. I think what really confuses people a lot of times when it comes to this, sidebar really quick, I'm digressing really quick here. What I see most people do, most of my students anyway, what I see most of my students do when they get something like this, I could say that this is how it's supposed to be written, but what they'll do is, well, I know a quarter note receives 1 beat, I know a quarter rest also receives 1 beat, and a half note receives 2 beats, so I'm gonna just put 2 here. But that's not how you mark out. You have to count the beats. Yes, you have, this is 1 + 1 + 2. Sure, that's 4. 1 + 1 + 2 is always gonna equal 4, right? But you can't put 1, you can't say 1, 1, 2 and count this properly. Because if you say 1, 1, 2, what happens if you end up, all right, so wait, no, that's a rest. Did I do it right? It's fine, but make sure that you count it to make sure that you have all your beats in the measure. Because you could put 1, let's say I actually filled this in and let's pretend this is a quarter note for today. This half note is posing as quarter note. Right? So this half note is posing as a quarter note. So instead of it being like that, I could put 1, 1, 1, and I only have 3 beats in the measure, right? Or you can mistake this to be a quarter note and say that it's 3 beats. It's only 3 beats in that measure, so this measure is incomplete. But that's not the case. Let's say we erase these. You can't do it like that. Moral of the story, just to make it easier on yourself when you're counting the beats, make sure that you actually count them by how many beats that they actually have. If I know I have to have 4 beats in the measure, then that means that when I come here, instead of me doing 1 plus 1 plus 2 or 1 plus 1 plus 1, write it, this is 1 beat, this is the first beat, okay, this is another beat, so that has to be beat 2. If I need beats 3 and beat 4 in the measure to have it complete. Well, the half note gets 2 beats, so that must mean it gets beats 3 and beat 4. It's just using symbols to replace the numbers, okay? So let me try another measure. Let me add another measure here, okay? We're still in 4/4 time. I haven't changed anything. We're still in the treble clef. I might, instead of using the note G, let's say I use A and quarter note on A, half rest, and quarter note on G, okay? And that's the end of my song. Let me count my beats, okay? I know this gets 1 beat, or let me not say that it's wrong. Let me use your method, but I'm gonna show you how to actually continue to use that method and apply it to where it makes sense for everybody that's trying to count, okay? Let's say you have, okay, so this gets 1 beat. This is a, wait a minute, is that a half rest or a whole rest? Remember, the half rest is the one that looks like a top hat. The whole rest is the one that looks like an upside down hat, okay? So the whole rest hangs down from the 4th line. The half rest sits on top of the 3rd line. Is this sitting on the top of the 3rd line or hanging below the bottom of the 4th line? You know, let's see, 1, 2, 3, up, sitting on top of the 3rd line. That means this is a half rest, and the half rest receives 2 beats of silence. And the quarter note, that also gets 1 beat. So I know this is beat 1. If this is getting 2 beats, I know that this must be beats 2 and 3 in this measure. And this also gets 1 beat. And that means that this also has to have, for this beat 4. So 1 plus 2 plus 1 equals 4 beats. Is this a complete measure using the 4/4 time signature method? Absolutely, it is a complete measure. All right? I never want to tell anybody that things they're doing is wrong. I want you to understand that there's a right way, there's a standard way of doing this. You see what I mean? There's no wrong way to do this, but you have to follow the standard route, okay? The standard route is 1, 2, 3, 4. But if it makes sense for you to actually remember, to help you understand and consciously break down that, okay, this gets 1 beat, this also gets 1 beat, and this gets 2 beats, that equals 4 beats, which means that 1 plus 1 plus 2 equals 4. Then there has to be 4 beats in this measure. You can answer that, yes, this is a measure that is complete because it has 4 beats inside of it. But make sure that you count the beats. When writing the beats out underneath it, you make sure that you put 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can count it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not 1 plus 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 1. That's not 4 beats. You have to make sure that you're counting it in the sense that the beat is being presented. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4. 1, rest, rest, 4. 1, 4. See what I mean? Ta, ta. See what I mean? Make sure that even if you do it this way, make sure that you still write it in the standard form. Okay? Now, let's talk about the assignment that you may have if you are a part of the classroom in the music theory course. The assignment that you're going to have is going to ask you to do something similar to this. I'm going to erase all of these things. I'm going to erase everything that's not supposed to be here. And I'm gonna make it a little bit easier on myself, like this, like erasing this bar line, this double bar line, and setting up da 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 da. Da 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 da. So, one of your homework assignments is to actually draw some of these things into the measure and count them out. So, if I were to do right here a whole rest, remember the whole rest hangs down from the bottom of the fourth line, like Batman. We're gonna call him Boxman, okay? The whole rest receives 1, 2, 3, 4 beats of silence. That is a full, complete measure in 4/4 time. It's gonna ask you to draw a treble clef, write the time signature into it, and actually draw in one measure one whole rest and mark out the beats. Don't put 4 equals 4. Write it this way. Yes, we know 4 equals 4. It helps you remember that this gets 4 beats. I understand that it helps you remember that. But when it comes to answering the questions, mark it out like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? In this measure, I could have 2 half rests, right? And I know half rests receive 2 beats a pop. So I put 1, 2, 3, 4. I have my entire measure filled all the way up. They're also gonna ask you, I kind of did the first 2 measures for you. I'm gonna let you do the last few measures. The last few measures ask you to draw one measure with the first bar with the whole rest, the second bar with 2 half rests, the third bar with 4 quarter rests, and the fourth bar with 1 half rest and 2 quarter rests. So you know how a half rest looks. You know how a whole rest looks and how a quarter rest looks. So I'm gonna write half rest, HR, whole rest, WR, like wide receiver, but whole rest. And QR, not quarterback, but QR, like quarter rest. 2, 4, 1. All right. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. I think so. If you have any other questions, please let me know, and I will try my best to answer them. Otherwise, thank you for rocking with me. I'll see you soon.